Definitely the most notable and iconic spy of all time, the character of James Bond, also known as 007, has been taken on by multiple actors over the decades, all of whom have been able to bring a slightly different style to the character on screen. Although I love the ones with Pierce Brosnan, I really grew up with the Daniel Craig era, and for me, those ones will probably always be my favorite. Especially ones like Skyfall, which I could probably watch on repeat. But one thing which all of these films share with each other, no matter what decade it is a whole lot of guns to cover. And I figured there was no better place to start than with the first one in the Daniel Craig series, Casino Royale, which was released back in 2006 to critical acclaim and praise for Craig's portrayal of the character. Funny enough, he would actually go on to be known as the so-called Blonde Bond. But I don't want to make this video any longer than it needs to be, so let's get right into the weapons used in Casino Royale. So of course, the first gun we gotta cover is that of James Bond's sidearm. But if you've seen the film already, then you might have already been slightly confused by the fact that James Bond doesn't use his classic Walther PPK throughout the film. Instead, throughout the majority of this movie, we can see him armed with a Walther P99. The reason for this change was because the filmmakers wanted to modernize his image. The PPK, while iconic, was designed in the 1930s and chambered in .32 ACP or .380 ACP, calibers that by the 2000s were often just considered underpowered for a frontline secret agent. The P99, by contrast, was a modern 9mm polymer frame pistol, putting Bond in line with contemporary law enforcement and military sidearms. The P99 looked sleek and modern on screen, and its larger frame gave Bond a more imposing, professional appearance compared to the much smaller PPK. For action-heavy sequences, the P99 also made sense visually. It better matched the grittier, more physical Bond Craig was portraying. Not only this, but Walther itself was actively promoting the P99 as its new flagship pistol during the late 1990s and early 2000s, as Walther had built the P99 in the mid-1990s to replace their older handgun designs and win police and civilian contracts. On top of this, the partnership between Walther and the Bond franchise had existed for decades, so it was natural for the studio and the manufacturer to align Bond with the P99 as a way of marketing the gun. Not to worry though, if Bond using the P99 instead of the PPK was something about this film that pissed you off, the change wasn't permanent. After Quantum of Solace, Bond eventually returned to the PPK in Skyfall, with Q giving him a new PPK-S, outfitted with palm print recognition.
Less of a random killing machine, more of a personal statement.
The Walther P99 is most commonly chambered in 9mm, but is also offered in .40 Smith & Wesson. Using 9mm cartridges, it typically uses 15-round magazines, and about 12 rounds in .40. Again, Bond can be seen armed with this gun throughout the majority of the film. Most notably when he takes out Dryden in the very beginning.
The second is... Yes. Considerably.
And later when he's getting the bomb maker Malacca in Madagascar. However, Bond is seen using the PPK in the very first part of the film, when he takes out Fisher in the bathroom. And just as Fisher gets up and tries to shoot him, Bond turns around with the PPK, rolling us into the classic gun barrel sequence. Bond isn't the only one to use one though, as later in the film, one of Obano's bodyguards can be seen firing a PPK at Bond inside the hotel. Speaking of that scene where Bond shoots Dryden in his office, during their confrontation, Dryden tries to surprise Bond by pulling from his desk drawer a Star Ultra Star.
Shame. We barely got to know each other.
But unfortunately for him, Bond was already a step ahead of him and took the magazine out of it.
I know where you keep your gun.
The Star Ultra Star is a slim, Spanish-made compact pistol from the company Star. Chambered for 9mm cartridges, it features a polymer frame, single-stacked magazine, and a double-action, single-action hammer with an ambidextrous safety and decocker. It was built for concealability and practicality rather than flash, and while it never became hugely popular, its compact size and reliability made it quite a favorite for those who wanted something slim and modern. During the fight scene with Fisher in the opening sequence, he can be seen armed with an HK USP compact. He isn't the only one to use one in this film though, for it appears the bomb maker Malacca, who Bond chases through the construction site and later into the embassy, is also armed with one as well, for he can be seen using it to shoot two of the construction workers. He shoots at Bond multiple times and misses, and when he runs out of ammo, he pulls a Hail Mary and tries to throw the empty gun at Bond. Bond is way too nice with it though, and completely unfazed, he just catches the gun in air and throws it right back at him. The HK USP Compact is one of HK's compact pistols. Clearly, it's a shortened, carry-friendly version of the USP that keeps the same cold-forged barrel and heavy-duty internals. Available in 9mm, .40 Smith & Wesson, and .357 SIG with double-action, single-action, double-action only, or LEM-style triggers. The USB compact balances concealability with controllability, softer recoil, ambidextrous controls, and even suppressor-ready tactical variants make it a favorite for shooters who want full-size performance in a smaller package. Another really cool weapon used in this film would definitely have to be that of the HK UMP-9. Bond can be seen using a suppressed one in the end of the film when he takes down Mr. White. Not only this, but two of Gettler's thugs in the end of the film also appear to be armed with suppressed UMPs, which also include vertical foregrips, and one of them even looks to have an ACOG sight as well. The HK UMP-9 is the 9x19mm version of HK's UMP family. It's a modern, lightweight submachine gun that was introduced around 2000 as a simpler, cheaper, and lighter alternative to the MP5. Built with a Palmer receiver and simplified operating system, the UMP was optimized for easier production and lower weight while keeping good controllability. It's offered in 9mm, 40 Smith & Wesson, and 45 ACP, the UMP-9 being the 9mm model. Available in select fire and semi-auto export versions with folding stocks, Picatinny rails, ambidextrous controls, and detachable box magazines that are commonly either 25 or 30 rounds. The UMP is known for close quarters performance, solid ergonomics, and reliability. It's a practical SMG for police and military units that wanted something lighter and more affordable than the MP5. While Bond was grabbing Malacca from the ambassador's office in Madagascar, the ambassador can be seen trying to grab from his desk drawer a Browning high-power Mark III, but Bond disarms him for it right before smashing his head into the statue on his desk. Bond then uses it to hold Malacca at gunpoint as they walk through the embassy, shooting some of the guards with it before throwing Malacca out a window. The Browning high-power Mark III is a late 1980s refresh of the classic Browning 9mm single-action all-steel service pistol. It keeps the full-size handling and 13+1 capacity, roughly a 4.6 to 4.7 inch barrel, but adds modern safety and feed improvements, an improved firing pin safety, updated ambidextrous thumb safety, and subtle slide and feed ramp tweaks to handle contemporary ammunition more reliably. In short, the familiar high-power feel and capacity tightened up for modern use. During the scene as well, it might appear that some of the embassy guards are using AKs when firing at Bond, but in reality, they're actually using Romanian SAR-3s. The SAR-3 is Romarm's 5.56 NATO version of the AK. It's essentially an AK-style rifle made to fire Western ammunition. Romarm didn't make the SAR-3 because they wanted a fundamentally different weapon. They made it because, at the time, the market and the geopolitics had changed. A 5.56 AK was a logical way to sell AK reliability to NATO-caliber customers and to the Western civilian market. It succeeded as a niche export and commercial product, as you still see SAR-3s on auction sites and in used inventories, but technical issues, mags, competition, and changing procurement patterns kept it from becoming a widely adopted service rifle. The SAR-3 uses a long-stroke gas piston system, a stamped receiver, and typically features classic wood furniture. Most SAR-3s use a 30-round magazine while chambering 5.56 ammunition, but some import packages were shipped with 10-round magazines to comply with restrictions. As an AK-style design, its rate of fire falls roughly around 600 to 650 rounds per minute. Being rugged and reliable like any AK, the SAR-3 is a somewhat unusual but practical pick for collectors who want NATO performance with proven AK dependability. The guards can be seen unloading these things throughout the embassy as they try to get Bond and Malacca. Among the many handguns used in this film, the character of Mr. White uses a pretty sweet one as well. During the scene at the end of the film, where Le Chiffre is trying to make it so Bond has almost no chance of having kids in the future,
Now the whole world's gonna know that you died scratching my balls.
the character of Mr. White can be seen breaking through the door armed with a suppressed Jericho 941F, which he uses to take out Le Chiffre for breaking the trust between him and Mr. White's organization. Mr. White isn't the only one to use one, however, as during the confrontation with Gettler in the end, Gettler can be seen armed with a two-tone Jericho. The Jericho 941F was developed in Israel by IMI, now IWI, in the early 1990s as a CZ-75 style service pistol with modern Israeli tweaks. The F denotes the full-size steel frame version. It's an Israeli take on the CZ-75 concept that mixes heavy, accurate all-steel construction with modern features. Chambered for 9mm, it's got about a 4.4 inch barrel with a 16+1 capacity. Over the years, shooters have widely praised its durability, for it's a beefy, controllable handgun that trades lightweight carry for solid performance. During the ending confrontation with Gettler, another handgun which can be seen used by one of his thugs appears to be a suppressed Sig Sauer P226, which Sig developed to compete in the US military's XM9 trials. Introduced in 1984, the Sig Sauer P226 is a full-size, double-action single-action service pistol that earned a reputation for durability, accuracy, and rugged field performance. so much so that elite units like the US Navy SEALs adopted a corrosion-protected P226 variant. It's got roughly a 4.4-inch barrel, 15-round magazine while chambering 9mm cartridges, and SIG's hammer-fire double-action single-action system with a decocker. The P226 balances duty-grade reliability with shooter-friendly ergonomics, and its many variants let you trade off weight, finish, and features depending on the job. In the film, when Bond is trying to stop the bombing of the Skyfleet prototype at the Miami International Airport, when he's chasing Carlos out on the tarmac, Carlos can be seen firing at him with his Glock 17. The Glock 17 is the pistol that started the Glock revolution, a 9mm, polymer-framed, striker-fired full-size service gun introduced in 1982. With a 17-round magazine, roughly a 4.5-inch barrel, and Glock's simple safe-action trigger system, it's light, tough, and easy to maintain, which is why law enforcement and military units around the world adopted it and why it still sets the standard for modern service pistols today. During the same scene, some of the Miami airport police can be seen firing at the wheels of the truck with their Colt law enforcement carbines. The Colt LE6920 was introduced as Colt's dedicated law enforcement and civilian take on the M4 carbine in the late 1990s. Basically Colt offering a military spec M4 for police and the public, built to feel and handle like the service M4, with forged receivers, a military spec bolt and carrier, a carbine gas system, and an A2 style front end. The LE6920 was aimed at departments and shooters who wanted authentic M4 ergonomics without a fully automatic lower. Because of the US assault weapons ban era and changing import and marketing rules, early 6920s and LE marked runs carried law enforcement markings and became a recognizable patrol rifle choice. And the model stuck around as Colt adjusted markings and packages throughout the 2000s and 2010s. Obviously, in the film, they're meant to represent real fully automatic M4A1s, as the officers here can be seen using them in full auto. After Bond is able to stop Carlos, hooking up the small explosive device to his belt loop, he then blows himself up. But right before that happens, after Bond is able to stop the truck from running into the plane, right as he gets out, he's knocked to the ground and immediately put in handcuffs. A few officers around him can be seen armed with the Winchester Model 1300 Defender. The Winchester Model 1300 Defender is a short-barrel, tactical version of Winchester's speed pump shotgun family, a purpose-built security and home defense model that usually comes with an 18.5-inch barrel and a full-length magazine tube so you can carry 6 to 7 rounds in the tube depending on the shell length. What set the 1300 apart was Winchester's speed pump action, which times the bolt unlock and makes the forearm feel noticeably faster and smoother to cycle than older pumps. Historically, it's an evolution of the Model 1200 line. The 1300 name was applied around 1978, and the Defender's security variants were marketed to police, military, and homeowners as compact, rugged tactical guns. Defender barrels are typically a fixed cylinder bore for close work, topped with a simple bead sight, and many examples shipped with plain, utilitarian furniture and extended magazine tubes. Some owners fit side saddles or rail accessories for lights and shells. One interesting piece I wanted to touch on was Daniel Craig's weapons prep for Casino Royale, which was not only intense, but hands-on. The production's armorer, Josh Scotto, and a small team of former Special Forces instructors coached him through months of practical weapons work, so every draw, reload, and shot looked authentic for the film. He learned specific things like safe blank firing and live fire fundamentals, with a big focus on practical firearm manipulation. In addition to static marksmanship, Craig practiced shooting while moving, shooting from cover, in awkward positions, and doing controlled pairs and rapid-fire strings, so his on-camera recoil control and muzzle discipline read correctly in close-ups. Trainers also ran stress inoculation drills, overseen by Simon Watterson and the armored team. Short sprints, push-ups, and fast breathing before shooting to stimulate fatigue, so his handling stayed steady during long physical takes. That weapons work was integrated with his combatives and stunt training too, with Krav Maga instruction from Darren Levine, and stunt rehearsals teaching him how to transition from grappling to drawing a pistol or disarming an opponent without it looking staged. The armorer team kept a strict safety protocol because blanks are still dangerous, and they choreographed timing with the stunt crew so muzzle flashes, camera angles, and actor movement all matched. The upshot is obvious on screen. Craig's Bond moves, reloads, and shoots with confident, practiced realism of someone who's trained for it, not just someone pretending. This is definitely one of those things that make being like an action movie star super cool. Just the fact that you get the opportunity to learn all these awesome skills, not to mention all while being paid millions. So during the beginning of the film, while Lashif is getting his money from Obano, his freedom fighters around his compound can be seen armed with many different weapons. A few fighters appear to be armed with AKMs, as well as the Norinco Type 56-1. But one of the more interesting weapons would have to be the Zastava M55A2 20mm flat gun, which can be seen here behind this guy. The Zastava M55A2 is a Yugoslav triple-barrel 20 by 110mm automatic anti-aircraft gun developed by Zastava and put into production around the early 1970s. Zastava grouped 3 20mm autocannon barrels on a single-toed mount to give light forces a compact, high-volume, short-range AA punch. Each barrel is fed from a top-mounted 60-round drum, and the mount's combined cyclic rate is around 1,950 to 2,250 rounds per minute, while practical sustained fire is commonly quoted at around 700 rounds per minute to avoid overheating and conserve ammunition. The system is heavy but towable, and is crewed by roughly 6 specialists. The carriage gives 360-degree traverse and very high elevation, so it can engage low-flying aircrafts, helicopters, drones, and even soft-ground targets with effective shots. And it's got maximum ranges quoted out past 2.5 to 3.5 miles depending on ammunition. Zastava would later produce upgraded A3, A4 series with power traverse, improved sights and optional ballistic computers, and the mount was also vehicleized to give mobile air defense teams quick reaction capability. Although a Cold War era design, the M55 family has persisted on export markets and in reserve stocks. Recent open source reporting and imagery shows M55s turning up in exercise demonstrations and in frontline use of reserve stocks in places such as Ukraine and the Balkans, where operators have sometimes paired old tubes with modern optics and improved sensor kits to keep them relevant against small drones and light aircrafts. Also during the scene at the Ugandan compound, if you look closely at what the kid is sitting on, it looks to be 2 SPG-9D recoilless guns. The SPG-9 is a Soviet 73mm tripod-mounted recoilless gun introduced in the early 1960s to give infantry and light vehicles a compact, high-velocity, short-range anti-armor punch. The SPG-9D is a lighter, airborne and mobile variant with carriage and portability tweaks. It fires rocket-assisted 73mm projectiles, heat rounds for armored targets, and fragmentation rounds for personnel. It can be tripod or vehicle-mounted, and remains in use worldwide because it balances simple logistics with effective short-range firepower. Among all the various AKs, one of the freedom fighters appears to be holding a PKM light machine gun. The PKM is Kalashnikov's lightweight, belt-fed, general-purpose machine gun in 7.62 by 54R, adopted in 1969 as a simpler, lighter successor to earlier Soviet medium guns. It uses a long-stroke gas piston and open-bolt action to deliver reliable full-auto fire from a bipod, tripod, or vehicle mounts. Its 600 to 800 round per minute cyclic rate, robust feeding from non-disintegrating belts, and proven durability made it extremely common during the Cold War and on modern battlefields. The PKM's mix of raw cartridge power and Kalashnikov's simplicity explains why it remains in service worldwide, even as newer variants like the fixed-barrel PKP address sustained fire limits for modern users. If you guys like this kind of content and you want more of it, maybe go check out our Patreon. It's just $1 a month, and we post the exact same videos over there as we do on YouTube, same day. But the ones over there include more things like deleted scenes, behind the scenes, or extra movie clips of whatever movie we're covering. So yeah, Patreon links in the video's description if you want to check that out. But yeah, that's going to do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one.